Steven Jackson apparently has some choice words for Shannon Sharpe. Now, I haven't seen this yet. Apparently, they saying that it was all on All the Smoke podcast, and so I'm gonna break that down. And so let me pull up Steven Jackson. I don't know what part of the podcast. If anybody in the chat can let me know exactly what's happening as far as the podcast, we're gonna get it rocking. Shayla says your shows keep me going, keep me going, being authentic. They hate your candor but can't kill your greatness. Shayla, you coming to the studio this week? I ain't seen you in a long time. I have not seen you in a long time, Shayla. Are you gonna come to the studio? We could do an exclusive. We could just sit down and kick it and shoot the shit and play it by ear. Shayla, let me know what your schedule is. You got my number. Text me, and then we gonna play it by ear from there. All right? I ain't seen your big head in a while. Let me see where this Steven Jackson is. All right, hold on. Let me see. Is this shit low? All right, bet. I'm holding you to it. Come through. Come through.
Appreciate you. Appreciate you.
Stack a dollar. Stack
Man.
a dollar.
Hey, you know
How y'all
what?
brothers doing, man?
We're good.
Y'all some good
Good
brothers.
to see you again.
Man, good to see you, man. We
On having authentic.
Oh, I think it's pinned to the top of the chat because I'm gonna be opening up the lines for I take calls. So if anybody got a disagreement with me, or if anybody feeling some type of way about me, you're more than welcome to call in and get your thoughts off. Is it pinned to the top of the chat? Let me make sure that this is pinned to the top of the chat. Let me make sure it's pinned to the top of the chat. Give me a second. All right, it's pinned to the top of the chat. Bet. All right, let's get to it. Let me see what's happening.
Real conversations we can learn from, the conversation we can, motivate from. Quiet down in the back, Nate.
and he's already said in interviews. People have seen my interviews a million times on YouTube and stuff. So I just don't want to say the same thing.
Right.
And when I left, I realized that I said, damn, because sometimes I want to keep re-educating people on who I am.
Yes. Wait a minute. All right, we appreciate you.
Standing on top of the world. And I fly a chicken over at
To stand up, you had said some stuff, and obviously Shannon Sharpe in his podcast and Cat Williams and all this, it really made headlines, broke records. You recently got in the man and was telling jokes, how you tell jokes, and it kind of started getting back and forth, but I was glad. I knew it would happen. You and Shannon were able to talk and figure it out, and that happened, I think, yesterday, if I'm not mistaken. Can you you don't have to tell us what it was about, but just how that came about and where you guys are at now?
Well, we at the end of the day, this is all entertainment. That's what this is. We're not selling drugs. We're not in the underworld. So there's some guidelines and rules to the business that we're in. And at the end of the day, we got families, we got kids and stuff like that. So sometimes we can get out of line, man. And me personally, I can get out of line a little bit. Sometimes. Well, I said some stuff that I didn't. Some of the stuff I shouldn't have said. Some of the stuff was good. It was funny. Everybody was laughing. But then when I went back and looked at it, I said, yeah, I kind of crossed the line a little bit. But when you cross the line, you're already there. So I just didn't expect. I just didn't expect the brother to get so mad about it.
So he's basically talking about when him and Shannon Sharpe was going back and forth because Cat Williams obviously had broke the internet. Mike Epps had did a joke and said that Shannon Sharpe wanted him to be on the show. He made a zesty joke about Shannon Sharpe. It was actually pretty funny. Shannon Sharpe then responded and said that he was going to pull up during the All-Star game. Obviously, they hashed it out. And because Mike Epps had responded or whatever and said, I'm going to be there. And so they hashed it out and they basically came to the conclusion, hey, listen, sane heads prevailed. You said some stuff that wasn't true. Whatever. You know what I'm saying? And we know that, I've been reviewing Shannon Sharpe's content lately. And we know that Shannon has been getting a little bit more upset than usual about all of the smoke that he's been getting from people on the internet, right? And so basically Mike Epps is just taking responsibility. He's taking responsibility for what happened and that he felt like he crossed the line a little bit, which I do think that he did cross the line a little bit because I think a lot of comedians have been above reproach lately because they are comedians, so they feel like they can say whatever the fuck they want to say. But I don't think that that shit is true. I think that that used to be true when you did it in jest as a joke. But when people start to take a narrative and run with it, I think it's different in social media area. Corey Holcomb proved that. Cat Williams proved that. That people look at it as more than jokes now. Because see, that was cool when it was just jokes. Like when you can do it back when it was just jokes and people knew that it was a joke, but it wasn't something that people took serious. Now, I think that when people are speaking on things that's happening in real life and it's more than a joke, I think it kind of toes the line. And like I said, Corey Holcomb is a comedian, but he say some foul shit. Sometimes he say some shit that's true. Sometimes he say some stuff that's foul. Everything that Cat Williams saying all of a sudden, everybody taking it as gospel. Cat Williams be lying sometimes. Cat Williams be lying sometimes. Like you can literally go and fact check some of the stuff that he's saying. Cat Williams said that he read 3,000 books in a year. Or some shit like that. Let me not misquote him. He said something about 3,000 books or something like that. And I was like, what? You know what I'm saying? So I think that, you gotta be a little bit more careful, even though you're a comedian. I don't think that everything should just be able to fly. Although I do think that Shannon Sharpe still be taking it over the line sometimes because he's overly sensitive and he don't realize that he a public figure as big as he is, and so he's not used to the visibility, right? But let me continue to hear what Mike Epps is saying. I see Steven Jackson over there feeling some type of way though.
And then, like I said on the podcast, I said a lot of people have been talking about it. I mean, I seen it on Saturday Night Live. I seen a lot of Corey Holcomb, different ones. I just was wondering why, you know what I mean?
You got singled out.
And then,
He don't like Corey Holcomb either. He don't mention Corey Holcomb.
he told me, he was like, you know what, Mike, I'm gonna be honest with you. It was because it was you. He said, because guess what?
I fuck with you.
These people out here, they'll damn near do what you tell them to do. So when he said that, I said, damn, you right, man. I didn't look at it that way at first. And it just brought some light to me, man. And
Candace Owens versus Destiny, that's a thing. Let me write that down. I get there.
I felt bad about it. And I wanted to meet up with him and personally look him in the face and tell him that I was sorry. Because I've been messing with people and talking about them since I was a kid. You know what I mean? I'm talking about I hold my breath when I was a kid and say, I'm about to do it. And I'll talk about the bully. I'll talk about the dude that shoot everybody and all that and say something to him that don't nobody say, man, look at them shoes and blah, and everybody be laughing. He be looking like, I'm finna kill you. So that's my thing. That's what I do. I crack jokes.
Right.
On anybody.
Period. Right.
On myself.
Got to be able to laugh at yourself.
If I go on camera, if I'm doing that, that's what I told him too.
But if they jokes, why you got to apologize if they jokes?
You can see that he was waiting to jump in it. He leaned forward. First he was sitting back and he was just sitting there and he wasn't agreeing with any of this shit, right? Because look, you can tell the sentiment of a person when they feeling some type of way. I didn't even know that Steven Jackson had some type of smoke for Shannon Sharpe. You sent that to me? All right, I got you your car. I didn't know that Steven Jackson was feeling some type of way about Shannon. I don't know why. He went from community activist to hater. Hey, look, check it out. I'm gonna rewind it a little bit. Look, check it out. First he was like that, and he looking at his people. Look, this nigga just looking. He ain't even paying attention to Mike Epps. He ain't even paying attention. Look, it's all in your body language. He ain't even paying no attention to Mike Epps. And then eventually he leaned forward, and he can't wait to say something. He can't wait to say something.
Period. Right.
On myself.
Got to be able to laugh at yourself.
If I go on camera, if I'm doing stand, that's what I told him too. I
But
said,
if they jokes, why you gotta apologize if they jokes?
well, I mean, you know, like I said, man, it wasn't Shucky Ducky telling the joke. It was Mike Epps that got 5-season sitcom on Netflix. It was Mike Epps that got a movie out with Snoop right now. It was Mike Epps that got a special coming out on Netflix. It's Mike Epps that been in the business for 30 years. It's Mike Epps that, you know.
Name hold weight. Your name holds some weight.
Yeah, so you know, it was Mercedes Benz versus Hyundai. You know what I mean? If Mercedes Benz said something about me, I got to say something about what he said. You know, that's what happened, man. So we shook hands, we made cool. And one thing I wanted to show these kids.
There's another way to do it.
I wanted
Steven Jackson. Hate watching. And Mike Epps is a genuinely cool. I personally, even though I didn't like the beef I didn't like what was happening with him and Kevin Hart when they was beefed out or whatever, and I'm assuming that they're not beefed out or nothing like that anymore. But I didn't like that. I didn't like the fact that they was beefing because I actually fuck with, both of their comedy and stuff like that. But other than that, I think that Mike Epps is cool. I love Mike Epps. I think that Mike Epps is like a special brand of comedy that is missing in the game. He's authentic. He's real. I also like the fact that he just did a show here yesterday, didn't he? Yeah, he was at Little Caesars Arena, right? Or the Fox. He was at the Fox. I love Mike Epps. Mike Epps just opened up a bar / restaurant / comedy club here in Detroit. And so I think that Mike Epps is dope. Say, do you know they hosted Shannon on their pod? Did you know they hosted Shannon on? Did they host Shannon on their pod? I didn't know that. How did it go? Did it go well when they was hosting them on their pod, Trish?
I wanted to show these kids.
There's another way to do it.
I wanted to show these kids that guess what? No matter how I felt about him and how he felt about me, that guess what? This don't have to end in violence. And I'm not about to prove myself to nobody and mess what I worked so hard for to show somebody I'm a real nigga.
Nobody's too big to be talked about though. You did the right thing, but everybody can be talked about.
I not talk about everybody.
Yeah,
I have talked about every.
Of course you wouldn't apologize. He said I wouldn't apologize. What's wrong with apologizing? If you're wrong, why wouldn't you apologize? If you believe that you're wrong, if somebody communicates to you, let's say you keep it a G across the board, right? And then somebody comes to you and they say, hey man, listen, bro, I know you're a comedian and you could do whatever you want to do. I'm gonna just give a hypothetical example. Somebody say, hey man, Anton, I know you got a platform, you can do what you do. But when you said that, man, I was going through something at that particular time and my such and such had just passed away. And I say, oh man, I'm sorry, I didn't know that or whatever. Why is everything gotta be, I can't apologize? Why is it? How come just because if somebody communicates to you something and they talk to you, listen, I had a whole conversation where me and Boyce Watkins had a disagreement today. We talked back and forth. I got off what I thought, you know what I'm saying? And I respected him. And I told him when I came up on the platform, I said, listen, man, I appreciate you for even having this conversation with me and inviting me up to your platform. I didn't have to go, but I still extended a level of respect simply because even though we didn't agree on a lot of things, which we had that conversation, by the end of the conversation, he apologized to me and he said, listen, man, I'm sorry for doing this and doing that. And then I did the same thing. And I said, listen, I apologize for how it is that I reacted to this and that and so on and so forth. Listen, it don't make you less of a man to acknowledge what it is that you did wrong in the face of the person that you did it wrong to. And I respect Mike Epps for having a conversation with Shannon Sharpe and them coming to an agreement. And if they come to an agreement and it actually results in something positive that comes out of it, Why the fuck you in here throwing hate and throwing salt in the game saying, I wouldn't apologize for nothing? Fuck that. You a comedian. You can say what you want to say. And I agree also with Andrew Schultz. Anybody can get these jokes, but then if it's context to everything. Like, for example, if somebody started going off on you and somebody started jabbing at you because they don't like you and it's beyond jokes, it's different. It's just different. Blaze Skywalker says Steven Jackson definitely feels some type of way about Shannon, but why? Why does he feel some type of way about Shannon is what I'm trying to figure out. I don't know what the beef is with them. Why do they have beef?
Talk about everybody.
Yeah,
I
so
have talked about
I wouldn't
about
apologize.
everybody. I'm serious. I mean, I talked about Shaq straight in his face. I didn't call him Shrek and all kind of. He just be laughing.
laughing.
I'm thinking that he gonna laugh too.
You only get mad like that when there's some truth to it, dog. That's just how I feel.
Speaking of, I'm glad you guys got to talk and clear your piece up. But your show.
See, Matt Barnes trying to be the mature one. And I'm usually used to the beige rage. I seen Matt Barnes put his, you know what I'm saying, was putting the hands on a young kid I just did a thing on Matt Barnes, I think, 2 weeks ago or something like that. And I was like, yo, he wrong. I'm going to just call a spade a spade. Man, listen, Matt Barnes is running interference because this nigga right here is hating. And now he feeding into the narrative that Shannon is, because he know that he can poke the bear. Oh no, Shannon is gay. It got to be some truth to it. That's some ugly shit. All that, man. Listen, how old is Steven Jackson? Let me see something. 45 years old. 45 years old. He an Aries, just like me too. Which I don't even subscribe to none of that astrology shit, but it just is what it is, you know. I just noticed his birthday is in the same month, in the early part of April. And he over here, man, listen, when you get past, I believe when you get past 30. However, it's definitely when you get past 40. When you get past 40, you got to let some shit go. Because we done already made it. Everybody got rich. You are what you're going to be. You might be able to get better and all of this. You gotta, and once you get past 40, you gotta let some shit go. But throwing the unsolicited shots, that shit is unwarranted, man.
Speaking of, I'm glad you guys got to
Truth to it, dog.
Thinking that he gonna laugh too.
You only get mad like that when there's some truth to it, dog. That's just how I feel.
Speaking of, I'm glad you guys got to talk and clear your piece up. But
Michael Gibson says Steven feels as if Shannon should have stopped Cat Williams from talking about other comedians during the interview. That's his problem. What do you mean I gotta stop? You can't stop no nigga for getting off what he want to get off. If he asks you to, if you just volunteer the information or whatever, man, come on, man, stop, bro. I think that I never cared for Steven Jackson. I always felt like he was just a grown child that was still trying to keep it too hood, trying to keep it too thug, running in the Victim Olympics. I never cared about that shit. And it ain't even got nothing to do with the malice at the palace just because I'm from Detroit. I don't give a fuck about that. It got something to do with the fact that I think he's a bad representation, and he doesn't exemplify excellence, in my opinion. I think that he exemplifies a person that you can take out of the hood, but you can't take the hood out of the person because he keeps trying to be more hood than he really is. And all of that tough guy shit, once you get past a certain age, is just so corny to me, bro. That's the real lames. The real lames is when people still trying to be thug and trying to be hood and all of that stuff, and you ain't got to do that. That's corny to me. I think it's corny. I think you can get off your thoughts. But if Mike Epps said that, yo, I am absolutely cool with it, then I'm cool with it. I never cared for Steven Jackson. I just don't care for him. I think the persona, I think all of that shit is fake. I don't think that these niggas is really thugs. Listen, you can't make the type of money that they done made and make it to be 45 years old and be a thug. Can we just call a spade a spade? Listen, that tough talk shit, that shit is weak. That just means you a bag fumbler when you don't get yourself together. You can't make it to be 45 years old and make the type of money that these niggas have made, and then sit there and with that fake thug shit. Bro, you too old for that. You too old. And so I'm not going for it. I know that a lot of people like to be on code and they like to be a part of the community and shit. Man, fuck that, bro. Let's just keep it G. Let's keep it 100. Every time that it look up, every event that he at, he always in the middle of some shit. I remember it was a boxing match where some stuff had went off. I don't remember what it was. Was it Tank Davis? It was like a boxing match. I was gonna go to that fight too. I think it was in Vegas. And he was in, because Wallow was there. I think Wallow and Gilly was there. And he was in the middle of some shit. And I'm like, why this tall ass nigga always in the middle of some violence? Why he always got to be the thug, man? Don't you know you 45 years old? Once you start getting some gray in your beard, it's time to cut that shit out. You got kids and all of that, but you got to be at the forefront and always hating that shit. Man, fuck that, bro. Too old. That's the thing I don't like about Game. Game just be messy as hell. Like, dog, ain't you a little old for this shit? Once you get past 40, you still beefing with niggas and talking about pulling up and all of this dumb shit and hating on people. Man, get the fuck off of that, bro. Get the fuck off of that. That shit is corny. Corny as hell. So let me see if he say anything else.
Your show on HGTV with your wife, buying back the block, obviously something that's very important to
Shout
you,
out to Matt Barnes for running interference for this dude.
near and dear to your heart.
Niggas be 6'6", 6'7", 6'8", made it into the league, made a bunch of money, got they show popping and all of that, and still be talking shit.
Speak to that show and how
Yeah, I know Wallow was always a peacemaker, Fi.
it is you going back in your hometown and doing that.
You know what? Me and my wife, we were blessed to.
I guess that's the end of that. Ain't no need in seeing anymore. But I do. I think that the way that people carry themselves in certain situations is just lame. And it's like always having a confrontation, always being a tough talk. Steven Jackson went to O Block. Why would he go to O Block?